Hi. So I get quite a lot of messages on emails and Instagram mostly. So I put a thing out asking people to send me their questions, and I got a whole heap of all sorts of random questions, and I'm going to try and answer as many as I can. I've bunched some up together that are quite similar and sort of generalised some which I can talk in more detail about. So here we go. Possibly a lion, I think. Lion would always be my first, just because they're so amazing and majestic, and I used to look like a lion. Well, I still sometimes look like a lion when I've got my big curly hair. But also pandas and most dogs and most animals actually. Elephants, I love elephants. So yeah, I'm not going to be very good at this, I don't think, answering questions. I've been asked this quite a lot. I'd love to. I'm not sure how possible it is at the minute with my workload and things like that, but hopefully if the Happy News grows, which it is, that'll be something we can look at. Other people in the past have asked me if I'd do an app for the Happy News, and I've sort of held back from that and sort of having it too digital as well, because the whole point was that it's a real newspaper. A real newspaper. And I want it to be something people can keep and look at and pick up and share. I know you can do all that on an app, but there's nothing quite like an actual piece of paper. And there's a lot of time and thought goes into it, so I don't want it to just be a throwaway thing that you sort of scroll through once. So yeah, hopefully there will be a Happy News radio show many moons into the future, but it's on my list. My star sign is Aquarius, only just, and my birthday is the 18th of February, so I'm just on the cusp, but I'm so Aquarius. Yes, you can get the newspaper in the USA, you can get it in Indonesia, you can basically get it anywhere in the world. We ship all over the world. Not yet, as far as I know. That's something my licensing company are looking into in terms of my cards and products, so hopefully you will be able to get stuff in Australia soon. You can get, I think it's 5, 6, 7 and now 8 on the website, but only in 5 or 10 copies, and only in the UK just because postage is a nightmare. I'll put the link below this video somewhere. If you go to www.thehappynewspaper.com and then go on shop, you can subscribe there. I had to change it. You used to be able to just buy one copy or however many copies you wanted, but I just, with the workload and everything, I can't keep on top of posting out constantly. Oh, and there's a stockies page on the website. It's a newspaper. That's what it says on the tin, and it's a newspaper to celebrate all that's good in the world. The Happy Newspaper is a platform to share positive news and wonderful people, and it's 32 pages, recently all designed and illustrated by me. I used to get illustrators to provide content, but it's actually been easier just for now for me to illustrate the whole thing. So as you can see, it's broken down into months. I want to show how much good is going on in the world, so I try and pack all the pages full but have just small stories. We have features that run throughout every issue as well. Dear Casper's one. Everyday Heroes is a double page spread in the very centre of the newspaper in every issue, and that's people who you have nominated on the website. You can nominate people, anyone who brings a little bit of happiness to your world, showbiz, because celebrities do good things as well. I'll put a link below. I did the story behind the Happy Newspaper for Holly & Co, Holly Tucker, and yeah, she asked me to they were asking different designers, creators, all sorts of people to tell their story behind what they do. So you can see all that in detail, but basically the way I usually describe it is I graduated in 2014 in like June, July, and I went through a bit of a bad time myself, and I was basically searching for what I could do to make me happy, and at that time it was making other people happy, and that's the genuine sort of bottom line of it. And I realised that's what people were looking for on social media as well. Like Instagram, you see so much crap on Instagram and, you know, filtered nonsense that sometimes you're looking for a bit of realness or a bit of like I said, a little pick-me-up that you're doing alright and everything's going to be okay sort of thing. So that's where it all started, and it's sort of just gone boom 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 and grown because people are searching for happiness, it seems. People want, in terms of the happy news, people want to hear the happy news, but they're also searching for things that are going to pick them up rather than put them down. That's quite revolutionary, isn't it? But it's true. I think we're all sick of feeling like we're not good enough, or we're being put down every day, whether that's scrolling through Instagram or seeing adverts in magazines or on, you know, in the street or whatever. So yes, that's sort of where it came from. In a roundabout kind of way, I've sort of gone on a bit of a tangent. Okay, I get asked about this every single time I put it on my Instagram story. So the tablet I use is the iPad Pro. I only got this, did I get this a few months back? Oops, you can see everything. And the app that I mostly use to draw on is called Procreate. And on there it sort of stores all my drawings and stuff. So if you, I don't know how much you can see here. I use the Apple Pencil, which you buy separately, and yeah, it's a bit of a weird one having the iPad Pro. It's made my life a lot easier because originally I was drawing everything by hand with pencils, felt tips, pens, paint, whatever I could find, and then scanning it in, sort of touching it up on Photoshop, editing it, putting it all together, and then still sometimes it wasn't right. But there's this real sort of divide between going digital and still doing everything by hand, and I always want my stuff to be sort of have a hand-drawn feel and everything, and all the cards, and I think most of the products that are going to be coming out, they were all done in my sort of old-fashioned way. I did graphic design at Manchester Art School, so we were sort of constantly told to be testing things out, trying different materials and stuff. I did art at school and graphic design and photography at college, so we always experimented with all sorts of stuff. So throughout all those years I've been building my own style, even though it's gone different ways every now and then. It's sort of now got its own style, I think, but I wouldn't have got that style if I'd just done it digitally, if that makes sense. I get a lot of people messaging me saying, do you think it'd be beneficial for someone doing art at like school or college or university or whatever? And it's a tough one because as amazing as it is an incredible tool. I don't think I would have wanted it at university just because I feel like it would have restricted, even though there's a million things you can do on there. It's not the same as getting your hands dirty and painting or like ripping up paper and collaging and doing all sorts of stuff like that. I think you've got to do that and find your own style before you can replicate it. That's what I always try to emphasise, is that what I'm doing with the iPad is replicating my own style that I've already created. So yeah, it is amazing. But for example, I've had a couple of people message me about their children using it, and I think that's not good. I think children should be more so drawing with felt tips and pencils and making a mess and paints and big pieces of paper rather than on a screen. But maybe that's old-fashioned me, but I don't want everyone to sort of just go that way and do everything digitally, because what's the fun in that, really? This is a really good question. It's tough. I always have this battle with myself where I have to be researching, I have to be looking what's out in shops already and online, on Instagram, on Pinterest and all those things, so that I'm not doing the same as someone else, because I'll try and use those sorts of platforms to make sure something I've done hasn't already been done. Do you know what I mean? I won't sort of go on there and then let all that be influenced by what I'm then going to create. Or basically what an artist or creative is is finding things that you like or that inspire you or influence you, taking all these tiny little pieces from all over the place. When people say to me, where do you get your inspiration from? I don't just get it from books or websites, or I get it walking down the street or travelling, going abroad and seeing colours. My brain is constantly like this because I'm trying to take everything in, and I think my brain somehow digests it in a weird sort of way, and sort of, it's really difficult, you know. If I go back to just thinking about my cards, when I was doing those cards, I was looking around at other cards, and I've always, like since I was tiny, I've always gone into Clinton's and places like that and looked at all the cards and gone through them all, and like I've kept pretty much every card I've ever been given. But on the cards I was just saying what I'd want to say to my dad, my mum, my sister. I don't have a sister, but you know what I mean. What I think my friend would want to say to her sister, putting my tone of voice down on paper. And that seemed to work. So I always try to stay true to that and not forget that, because it can be so easy to just sort of see what everyone else is doing and think, oh, maybe I should be doing that, or maybe I should go down that route and just follow that trend. Trends run out very quickly. So yeah, I don't think that's answered the question. Hope it answers a little bit. Basically it's tough, and you've got to stay true to yourself, but everyone's going to be influenced by everyone. It's when people are directly copying others, whether that be their words or their illustrations, designs, whatever, that's when it becomes a problem, and that happens a lot. Yes. It's really weird being in these four walls pretty much 24/7. Not quite 24/7, I don't sleep in it. Well, sometimes I do. But yeah, I think most of the time, most days, I'm quite happy being on my own and doing my own thing. Sometimes I can wear my pyjamas if I want, which is always a bonus. And it doesn't matter what hours I'm working, because I work better at night. So all of those things are positives. But then just not being able to say, I usually use like my mom and my boyfriend just to say, do you think that colour's better than that one? Or do you think people would buy this? And they are really helpful, but it's weird not having someone with that same mindset as you as a creative, to sort of bounce back and forth. Which is why when I was selling all my stuff like through Etsy, I'd sort of post on Instagram just to sort of get an idea of what people think first. And the weirdest thing about doing all my products and stuff now is that I've not been able to do that at all. I've not been able to show anyone anything. Just sort of had to have the confidence, and the confidence in people who are around me in terms of like my licensing company and the publishers and people like that who have obviously seen everything. So yeah, it is quite stressful and sometimes a little bit lonely. I don't really have one sort of role model or inspiration. There's a lot from all different parts of the world as well, like, not in terms of like countries, I mean like from artists to authors to musicians to all sorts of people, to my family and friends. But in terms of like illustration style and stuff like that, Nick Sharratt, who did all the Jacqueline Wilson books, was like my #1 growing up. I just thought that his work was the best thing that had ever been invented. Invented? Don't know what I'm about. Neil Buchanan, who did Art Attack, people like that who were just, I was like, oh my god, I want to have your job when I'm older. Quentin Blake, #1 fan. And Roald Dahl, obviously, but in terms of the illustration, that'd be Quentin Blake. Oh, and stuff up here. David Shrigley. Oliver Jeffers, big fan. Kate Moras, I think she's wonderful, and I think her work's wonderful, and what she has created in terms of her studio and stuff. Yeah. In short, the answer is I'm not happy all the time. I don't have a positive mindset every day. I want to reiterate that what you see on Instagram isn't a true reflection of a person or what that person's going through or has been through. I try to see the positive in everything, but I'm also really sensitive, and I always have been described as sensitive. I feel like empathy towards people in abundance, like way more than you probably should, which can be a really good thing and a really not so great thing, especially with things on the news, because I try to watch bits of the news, obviously, because of what I do. I need to know what is going on in the world. I never want to sort of coat over all the bad stuff going on in the world with rainbows and sunshine. The point of the newspaper is to highlight the good, because I think everyone should know about the good stuff going on. But yeah, when things like the Manchester attack, when the bomb went off in Manchester, Grenfell Tower, all those things, I was sobbing. And I sort of questioned what I was doing. I'm like, how can I do a happy newspaper now after all of this? So it's not easy, and I think being the face of my brand as well isn't easy, because I'm not going to be happy all the time, as much as people think I am.